Good evening. Okay, we're back, and today we're going to be talking about Blessed are the Afflicted. And before we even start, this is the chapter 5 of our Gospel, and it's the longest chapter of the book. There must be a reason, I guess you're going to agree with me, for this particular chapter to be the longest. And as you go through here, this presentation, it becomes very clear why. It's really something that we humans need a lot as we try to transform ourselves from whoever we are into something bigger and better. So, to start, let's think about this dilemma that we all have, those that are incarnated at least. We know that the highest aspiration of any man is happiness. So we all want to be happy. We are here and we want to be happy no matter what. And we are sometimes confused about happiness. Well, we're going to touch on that later on, to what is happiness. But from the other side, we keep asking this question: why do we suffer? So we are here to be happy, and we don't find it, don't see it, and then the next thing we do, why do we have to suffer? We go all the way to say, how come God has not created us just perfect instead of simple, right, and ignorant? And we get confused at that point. But we know we are here to be happy, and I am suffering. So you're going to hear a lot, as you can attest to it. I'm not happy is something that we hear a lot. Happiness was not meant for me. And this is what most humans say in any position, in any place, of any level, intellectual, moral, whatever. The question is all over the place, everywhere. Why am I not happy, right? Okay, this chapter 5 of the Gospel is a long one, and I try to put in perspective by dividing it in 4 quadrants, if you will. The first one is the chapter will address the issue of the just behind all affliction. Are we suffering in a way that we can say it's fair that we are suffering? Unless you are prepared to analyze, to understand why we're suffering, I guess the answer is going to be, oh no, I'm more than ready to be happy, right? So we're going to touch on the suffering and its causes and what it means to us. In the other quadrant, we have the trials and expiations, all the different types of difficulties we have to go through while we are here. It could be voluntary, we're going to see it, or it could be real misfortune. Some disgraces occurs as well. And it can throw us into a very difficult emotional situation. Also, we suffer for the loss of, our dear ones. We see a lot of premature death, and so we see all that. And again, let's say we are all new in this, we would be asking, why is that? Then the other quadrant is the need for resignation. So we are going to learn that it's all what it should be. It's all right. There's nothing wrong. All they have to do is accept it and suffer with resignation. And if you don't, you're going to suffer anyway. However, the difference is going to be in when you suffer in a way that you can say you are accepting the suffering because you understand it. You're going to get from that suffering the lessons you need to then be able to tick that box as you evolve and go to the next step. And then, of course, this chapter will talk about the future life and consolation, because at the end, we are suffering because that's one step in our progress. We are not from here. We are from a different world. We are far away from home, actually. Our final destination is far away from here. Okay, and then if we put some labels to it, the first quadrant is why do we suffer, and what do we suffer? What is it that we're suffering from? How do we suffer? How should we suffer? And is there a compensation for all this suffering? It's so many times I have done this in my real life. When people come to me with all this complaining, about life, about suffering, how come, I have to go through all this? Or how come God took the life of my son or my brother or my mom? Why do we have to suffer this much? People without any, a lot, maybe let's say people with some knowledge of Spiritism or even spiritualism, and I say, well, I have the right thing for you to read, which is the chapter 5 of the Gospel. It's a long reading, but it's worth it. Okay, and starting from that kind of the fourth quadrant here, is there a compensation? Now go back 2,000 years ago when Jesus came, and he was going to meet a lot of people that were desperate, because at that time, we would find the rich people, and then the rest would be people would be not treated even as people. They were like they were even could be discharged. Could be, it's almost like a plague on earth at that point in time. So they had no even reason to be alive. They meant nothing for themselves. They were really down to the lowest level possible for a human being. And Jesus came and turned the whole thing around by saying, in that famous Sermon on the Mount, things like, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." Now, at the same time, now according to St. Luke, he would say, "But beware, you that laugh, for you shall mourn and weep." We're going to go through all the three that I brought for you, and then we'll come back. Then Jesus said, "Blessed are they that hunger and thirst, for they shall be filled. Beware you that are full, for you shall hunger. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Beware you that are rich, for you have received your consolation here on earth." So, what you see is that now, you can see why this, the doctrine of the Spirit is called today the doctrine of consolation, by bringing back all those, to light again all those teachings from Jesus that it was actually well before Kardec, 2,000 years ago. But those people that were there with no hope, all of a sudden Jesus come and say, "You're going to be happy. You're going to be," so if you are meek, if you are hungry, or if you are fighting for justice with honesty and all that, there's a place for you, and it'll be waiting for you over there. So those were not the words, it's just kind of using this here. But so then the whole thing turned around. The assurance given by Jesus for the afflicted of the planet Earth, that changed the whole thing. Because all of a sudden we are suffering, yes, but that's just part of our development, part of what we have to go through to be in a position to, to go to a better place, to go up in the scale of happiness. Of course, the rich people will do the same, but not all of them, and most of them are going to have difficulties. They think they don't need anything. They killed Jesus, by the way. They don't need anything. And this came as, of course, this would have been persecuted for that, because it was a major breakdown in the whole knowledge everybody had about, heaven and earth. Okay, so let's consider this. If God is infinitely just and merciful, would He treat us with partiality, that is, privilege? Well, and then the spirits will say, therefore, if the vicissitudes of early life must have a cause, it must have a just cause. Okay, what we're learning here is the first step and is toward accepting our particular situation is to believe that everything we are going through was there's a cause behind that. That was triggered by something. And that something that triggered the whole thing was done by us. Because we live under the law of justice of God and the law of cause and effect. So there's no new news here, but it's always good to remember we're not suffering because of nothing. We're not here suffering because of, as they used to believe at Jesus' time, because your father did something wrong. Now you came to this world suffering that because of what your father did. No. We are individuals from a spiritual standpoint as much as we are here in the material world, except that as a spirit we are, eternal. And an incarnation is just another step, or another opportunity, I should say, for us to work on the stuff that we have to work on based on our needs, and those needs are what we have done wrong or not done in the past. Okay, so as far as the cause and effect, we have our sufferings are based on two causes, not to make it very simple. One is from prior lives, the other one is stuff that we created here, causes that we triggered even here after we have been reborn, after we have reincarnated. So the first ones, the cause from prior lives, we signed up for. So in between incarnations, as we are over there or somewhere, and at some point we start to be prepared to reincarnate. Okay, every star is different. It may take you 10,000 years, depending on what you've done in the past, or it may be less than that. Of course, much less than that. And you sign up for the stuff that all the trials and expiations that you are going through right now. But we don't know that. I mean, in this world, our consciousness is not aware of that. Our subconscious, that one is aware of that. But our consciousness doesn't have access to the subconscious, not the way we understand it. It does have, but not the way we understand it. So you are, in Spiritism, we like to say, we normally say that we come to this world here and we forget the past. But it's not that exactly that we forget. We just don't have the access to it in a direct way. However, it's in there and it's influencing who we are today. It's influencing our personalities, influencing how we react to things. And we have the resource to deal with that, because nobody is here without the appropriate resources. If you can imagine, through other books from André Luiz, It's very well, explained by André Luiz, how incarnation process occurs. For somebody that has already evolved something, it's in a position to help in the planning process. That person, or that spirit in this case, will not exactly pick and choose, but it's almost like that. Because we have a lot to, say, work on, and we have not brought all that list, to-do list, for this incarnation, because that would be too much. So with the help of the spirits, there's a big planning phase where we're going, the spiritual world is going to help us determine what is it we want to do and accomplish in this particular reincarnation, where we're going to be reincarnated, like which family, right? So this today is not about that. So, but yes, there is a planning. There are plans for us that we signed up for. I guess I can say it here, but of course there are those that have been, just dictated, told, so here's what you're going to do. Even those cases, then we see that was born with some major physical deficiency. So those spirits are very brave spirits that, that this incarnation, they took that, let's say, expiation for this, for them to rescue a big chunk of their issues from the past, or issues that they caused, things that they caused others to suffer, things that they didn't do right, they missed in prior incarnations. So we signed up for it. It's from the past. But then we come over here, guess what? We just decide to add some more to our to-do list. According to Joana de Angelis, sometimes we add much more than the original list by doing what we do here in this world. And that's understandable, because we don't come here perfect. We come here with the same problems that we had before. And this is an opportunity for you to move a step ahead, give just one step. But you are in a situation where you have difficulties living life here, and you end up not understanding what you are supposed to do here, and you end up, based on your instincts, to cause suffering. And we're going to see how we can do that. But those add even more to our to-do list while we are here. So then, you came with this list, and then I have this other list that we are still on the works here, and you are suffering for both of them at the same time. So, but what is affliction anyway? So, there's a lot of affliction, and these are just some of them. Anxiety, depression, low self-esteem, worries, fear, personality disorders, others. It could be, of course, I didn't put here, physical deficiencies as well. So those are, this is affliction in the sense that the chapter is addressing the issue here. So there's no good affliction in this case, in our particular, as the background of our lecture of tonight. We're talking about the trials, talking about expiation. So, what are some of the common causes of affliction? Okay, now this doesn't matter. It could be you did this in the prior incarnations, and you continue to do it here until you become a better person, morally speaking, in such a way that, you don't add too much to your original list of trials and expiations. For example, pride and selfishness. This is the base of all of our bad actions, our bad reactions, our bad thoughts. And there's a lot behind it. It's not, I was in one of the classes, so I need to work on pride. But pride has a ton of things. Pride is just the umbrella name. There's so many aspects. You just don't work on pride itself. You have to work on a ton of things to have to eliminate pride. Same thing for selfishness. For example, the other things, hate, rivalry. It's all, affiliated to pride or selfishness, ambition, jealousy, lack of discipline, lack of perseverance, moderation. So those are the types of affliction. Those are the things that we continue to do today. And it's hard. Let's say somebody here may not say, "Oh, I don't hate anyone. I never have rivalry for or jealousy or whatever that is." Okay, I believe you. However, it's not easy. Not easy to be in this world here without the temptations, surrounded by spirits that are here, some of them in very difficult trials or very difficult expiations. And this is the perfect place for us to say, even develop, if we don't watch, some of the issues that we think we don't have. So it's a constant, we have to be vigilant all the time. Jesus already told us that. Because we are, Emmanuel told us in a book, so here we are exposed to the situations where we are going to be tested to learn and to move on and to improve who we are. So yes, we do have ambition, we do have jealousy or lack of moderation, and that is really the opportunity for us to work on it. So, and man is only unhappy when they deviate from the laws of God. That's in the Book of Spirits, question 614. Just to remind us, we suffer, we're not happy because we just deny, we just don't want the reality as is. Okay, so if we're not happy, it's because we just don't accept the reality as is. And that reality could be difficult, or it could be good, it could be kind of a neutral. The minute we accept, for example, starting with us, the minute we accept us the way we are, with what we have, living in this world, knowing that we are here for a particular purpose, and that purpose is to prepare us for a better place, and then your chances of feeling happier increases a lot. So chapter 5 of the Gospel wants us to understand suffering and happiness. Help us to find relative happiness in this life, because it is possible to find relative happiness and secure happiness for the future life. So let's talk about happiness for a minute. So what happiness consists of? Let's start by definition of happiness, which evolved quite a bit in the last 500 years before Christ. The first cultural movement or philosophical movement defined it, that was called Hinduism. By them, this is not the way they wrote it, this is just the bottom line. By the Hinduists, happiness depended on how much you had in terms of properties, money, etc. So the richer, the happier you would be. So that was like 500 years before Jesus. 200 years later, right before Socrates, came this other school that was called cynicism that said, no, it's not really related to material things, but did not really denied totally the idea that happiness somehow depended on, on possession. But not too far away, time-wise, from this. Now, at times of Socrates, we have the Stoicism, which is the one that is still prevailing today. which says our inner peace is permanent regardless of what your earthly situation is, and always in sync with the cosmic laws. Basically, they were saying is that our happiness is a state of our spirit, and it is totally regardless of possessing or not possessing any material goods, properties, money, etc. So it detaches totally happiness from being rich or being poor or even being poor. So the bottom line is like this. It is not what you possess or don't, but whether or not you are possessed by the external goods. So it's reverted the whole thing. You don't need to have money, properties, to be happy. And not having it is also not a cause for unhappiness. Now, the worst thing for those that have is being possessed by what you have. So that becomes your God. So what does being happy mean then? Well, the narrow view is the top desire, it is the top desire of all human being. It's not a mean to, but it's an end. So you want to use that as it's where you want to get to. It is the supreme realization of man. So that's the narrow view. But the larger view now comes from Joanna de Angelis. Here's the larger view. The spirit was created to be happy. Okay, so we are all going to be happy. Just don't know when. But it's not going to be in this incarnation. We all are on earth to work and to earn happiness. This is Joanna de Angelis. So we are here to work on our happiness. That needs to be understood. The purpose of our incarnation on earth is to work on our vicissitudes, overcome our challenges, and exceed our limitations. It is important that that we understand what we are here for. Otherwise, there's no way you're going to be able to be happy. Of course, even those that understand it very well still struggling with happiness, because there's a part of those that still deny it. And it's only until when you get to a point where you are happy with what you have that you're going to be happy. So then Joanna de Angelis says, true happiness, to start with, is being alive. So here she's putting us really on a situation here. So the simple fact that we are here alive is already enough for us to be happy. And why is that? It's because we've been given an opportunity to develop ourselves, to work on our development, to rescue stuff that we did in the past, to fix situations, to reconcile with others that we hurt before. So we are here as an opportunity. We're not here to be penalized, to be okay. So you're a bad guy here. I don't want you, among us, the spirits, so I'm going to send you to South Florida. Okay. After that, it is the great joy of being conscious about our fragility. So I'm happy because I'm here. I'm happy because I understand why I suffer. I understand what parts of me led to this and where I need to work on. Also, and of the infinite possibilities of moral progress, which comes from our courage to achieve self-illumination. So if we're not thankful for being here, and if we don't understand why exactly we are suffering, why exactly we were put among us people that caused me to suffer, why am I married to this man, why am I married to that woman, and if we don't understand how life works, then definitely you are not going to achieve self-illumination, because you're just not listening, you're just not studying, just not understanding. So, why are men unhappy? The first thing is ego. We have this big ego. And the ego is that part of us that is going to filter everything we say and do, and our aspiration, and whether or not we're going to forgive or forget. And it's all, also the ego is going to decide whether or not we're going to accept criticism, whether or not I'm going to be able to see what's wrong with me. And that's all elusive. That's all elusive. So we call it horizontal plan. It's being here in the planet amongst all of us, okay, equals, and working on our egos, trying to do our best to meet the expectations of our ego. Well, that contrasts with the vertical plan. Now, making this link between us on earth and the spiritual world. And we're moving from ego to the true self, our soul. We're moving from elusiveness to truthfulness. We're now interested in the truth about us, about life, about what we need to do, what works, what doesn't. And of course, we are interested in following the guidance of Jesus. So we have to realize ourselves as a creature of Jesus Christ, which means a transition from this horizontal, elusive, to the vertical and truthful. So that is our, let's say, objective here in this life. There's a confusion between true self and the physical and emotional self. And that also doesn't help at all for us, to accomplish what we need to accomplish in life. And we have, the first part of it is we have the physical, us, me, you, right? Like I have a headache. He died. So those are all part of the physical world. So these are different states of our nervous system. And there is that you or me that you can touch, and you think that you are dealing with the real thing, right? Oh, I can touch you, I can see you, I hear you. That's the physical you. And then there is the emotional you, right? And then, humanity can lead to suffering. We can be victim or victimize ourselves. We can objectify somebody, which is real bad. We can, we just cannot, we're not the captain of our destiny. And that is the emotional you. Okay? It's emotional that's driven by what happens around you, or even sensations. But you're subject to feelings that may help you go up or down, just like that. So, but a criticism may change the rest of your day or the week. That's the emotional you. And then there is the spiritual you. Happiness and unhappiness come from our own substance and not from something outside us. So confusion between true self and physical and emotional self. We have to have in mind that we have our physical part, we are an emotional system, and above all, we are spirits with completely different needs and desires, hopes, than the emotional you that's driven by your ego, or your sensations that that leads you through your body, the five senses. Okay. So happiness cannot depend on something external to us, since we're talking about happiness, because the only real you that's going to go with you is your spirit. So give up your happiness and you'll be happy. So here are some of the things that we learned along the way from Jesus that help us perhaps understand or consolidate what we have in our minds. So Jesus said, give up your happiness and you'll be happy. We'll come back to that. It is, if the selfish could be truly happy, then the universal law would be compromised. So if you find somebody that is selfish and is definitely happy, well, he's breaking the law and breaking the law of God. Something is wrong. Somebody will have to work with God and fix it, because he's going against, he's going against the first commandment of God, which is love God above all and your neighbor like yourself. So a selfish man is only the me that became famous now, right? Okay, and he cannot be happy because he's not following God's law. Now, remember, we have this tendency to look at people in a particular moment, like at 9:15 on a Thursday night, and say, "You were happy." Well, that's not his entire life. But we can be happy. We spoke about relative happiness. Yes, sometimes we are happy, thank God. Trouble that we face is to be real happy. We don't even know what that is, and on a constant basis. Jesus said, lose your life if you want to earn it. And he was saying, forget about, this world. Do what you have to do here, because you have to survive. He didn't say that. This is me. Do what you have to do here. You still have to work. You still have to eat. You still have to marry. You have kids. You have to go do all that. You're going to need a car, a telephone, a cell phone. Do all that. But don't think that that is your life. Your life is, as we discussed here, is our spiritual life. And the to-do list that we discussed before, that we came here for. So for the ignorant, happiness comes from receiving. But that does not find it there. No, he does not find it there. So you are here to receive. You're not here to give. But that doesn't bring happiness to you, because only the wise is going to find happiness through giving. That has become clear to some people. Those that have tried it, experienced it, would agree with this. That's not coming from me, but it could well be coming from me as well. It's giving that brings happiness. It's not receiving. So there's much more happiness in giving than there is in receiving. Okay, look first for the kingdom of God, Jesus said, and his justice, and everything else is going to be given to you. There's certain things that Jesus said that I guess we're just wired to understand or to accept. I guess it's going to become clear, in future reincarnations, and that's one of those. But we can sense it must be true. We have this sense that that is the way to go. Now, what I have to do is to clean the house if we want to embark on that. In terms of our social vices, our moral pollution, all those bad habits, and engaging in the things that we've been told or have learned one way or the other, that are the things that will go very well with commandment number 1 as we just read it. Now, we need also to understand the difference between these things, happiness and pleasure. pleasure is something more related to your body, that, your sensations, your ego, right? So you bought a new car, you say, oh, I'm happy now with my new car. Well, you're having a pleasure of something that your money bought, and you bought pleasure, and it's going to go away, because happiness, in the sense of, the way we learn it from the spirits and from Jesus, is something that once you acquire, conquest that stays with you. And everything that your money can buy can only bring you pleasure, never happiness. But you don't know the difference. You only know the difference when you lose it, or if something that's very temporary is going to just distinguish itself. Now, have also to understand the difference between unhappiness and suffering. Okay? So, this side here, happiness, unhappiness, that has to do with our soul. Pleasure and suffering has to do with our ego and our body and our material world. So look beyond the horizons of earthly life is the way to go. So believing in immortality and harmonize life with the content of such faith. If we don't look beyond this life, when we are planning on our lives and seeking happiness, seeking Jesus, when Jesus said, blessed are the meek, because they're going to have the kingdom of God, whatever he said, he was not saying in this incarnation. He could only be talking about the future. Right? So common obstacles to faith, to a faith-lived life with ethic, we have a number of them. Envy, luxury, pride, pursuit of terrain, assets, properties, need for applause and recognition, desire for excessive material comfort, and a bunch of other stuff. Selfishness is in all of its forms, and pride in all of its forms. So that's the common obstacles for us to live a life that's faith-based. Again, in our gospel, we make it very clear, you can have that Mercedes. That's not a problem, right? You can have it. It's a matter of how attached you're going to be to that, and what that is going to mean to you, and how is that going to get in your way to do what you're supposed to do as a son of God. All right, establish and keep permanent serenity. This is part of the definition of happiness. Now, this is for those who know their true self and know that external factors can make them happy, or know that no external factors can make them happy or unhappy. So you've got to know your true self. By true self, you have to be able to kind of read your soul. And you're going to read, right now, it's much easier to start by reading the parts of our soul that you believe needs attention. And let's not depend on external factors to be happy. Those that are strong enough to keep a stable spiritual equilibrium, so those are the ones that can accomplish or reach this state of permanent serenity. And the end of it. So I guess before we finish this, I just want to come back just 1 second and say, life is difficult and it's full of challenge. We can find different challenges every day. Our to-do list seems to be always longer than the day before and all that stuff. But it is still possible for us to live a life with a relative happiness. It all depends on how we see the world. Unfortunately, most of us, and I can see it in my daily life, we are who we are. We're not happy with whom we are. And we have a second version of us that's called wannabe. And that Mr. or Mrs. wannabe kill us every day. And if we find a better place for that wannabe, then we're going to be happy. Okay? Thank you. Thank you.
Wow. That was really, really, really